absolutely, there was definitely a problem with the lack of information. But if we go back to the first question about the two-tier,
Yeah.
do you genuinely believe that the MPs would have put a report out condemning the way the police and the justice system handled it? I think we all know the answer that even if it was true, they wouldn't publicise it because
they have in the handling of the. If you recall, the handling of the Iraq War, a panel of MPs put out a pretty punchy report on that.
How long after?
Pardon me?
Maybe what? How long after? 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I'm probably. Yeah,
I mean, that's what the establishment does. Going back to Hillsborough, going back to whatever crisis you want to look at, where the police have got their mucky hands in it, they'll just delay. 20, 30 years later, and then you'll get an acknowledgement.
Do you think it's the police whose hands are mucky here? I think it's the CPS.
No, it's not the CPS. It's the members of Parliament. Let's be clear about this.
They don't make their decisions on the day, do they?
No, but they instruct. Same as the judges that then impose the really punitive sentences. They're told what to do behind. There is an establishment within the establishment that know what go on. We just don't know who they are. That's the worst thing about it.
You don't think the judiciary is separately?
No, not a chance. Look at the sentences that were handed out. They were ridiculous in most of the cases. But going back to the disinformation, Nick, can I just say one more thing? Sure. It was well known that this young man had religious paraphernalia, of the extreme nature. That was never put out. I think you're right. If that some people are just mindless and they will go out on a destruction.
They're looking for any
spree
chance.
Absolutely, but there is and remains a genuine concern that this country's fabric of society is changing too quickly. So when people have valid reasons, they should be heard. And one of the things that should have been said there is this guy we all know he probably was converted to a particular faith.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why should that be withheld of us? If it had been the other side of it, if it had been, for example...
Well, we don't know that he was converted. I mean, he was a Christian, or he was born a Christian.
He was born, but one of the things that was never asked was he a member of the local religious institution? I'm trying to keep... I don't want to...
I really appreciate the way you're speaking, because the last thing we want to do is start stoking all that up again. And again, if you read the report, the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, Serena Kennedy, was desperate to put out that is both a degree of his background and the fact of his faith because of the nonsense that was spreading, which you very carefully have avoided getting into. So I'm grateful for that.
Last year, when that atrocity happened, I was in Tunisia on holiday, and I was really scared to come back. I'm Muslim myself and my family. My wife, she's Catholic.
Right.
What I can see is that I live here in this country over maybe 17 years,
yes.
And the things keep changing for worse. Everything, they're blaming us for it. For God's sake, this guy, he was Muslim, he was Christian. He have nothing to do with us. If he was asylum seeker, or if he born there, so he's now Christian and he is born in Cardiff. Shall I blame the all English people or the Christian people?
Well, all the Welsh people. Careful, this is controversial enough without you putting Cardiff in England. All the Welsh people you'd be blaming, not all the English people. Yes.
Exactly. So I don't know why now, and thank God there is program like yours. He can focus on these things. The other channel in the TV is absolutely disgraced. They're blaming us. They're talking about this gang from Pakistan, and then they make the things look. You focus in the victim, or you focus on the justice, or you focus on what? It shouldn't make any difference if they said the guy is an asylum seeker or he is a Muslim or. He shouldn't, because anyway, arrest him, take him to the normal procedure. Why these people, they have to go attacking mosques, attacking people in the street for just identity? This is not really British. I am proud of this country. My children born here. I don't know, we have nothing to do with this. We are very peaceful people. We don't get engaged in all this kind of things. Just to deal with everyone equal under the law, under the British police.
But in 10 years, that's gone from sounding like something that almost everybody agreed with to sounding like some sort of, idealism almost, as if it's some sort of impossible idealism.
We blamed. I have no idea why I have been blamed, because someone from my religion or my skin color, he did some. So the guy in Luton, he killed his family, and then he was going to kill all children in the school. Yes. That should I blame the whole Christianity or the whole Luton people? This is mad. But why they have platform to talk about these things in the TV? And they lived in. I'm with this free speech, but this is not free speech.
And your voice is reasonable?
I find it quite bizarre that they went to such extremes to lock up grandmothers for some text, and in the same week, rapists, drug dealers, murderers were all being released early because, quote, they didn't have the prison spaces. You know,
I don't know that we had. I don't know that we had Did we have murderers really? I'm not sure we had murderers, but I get the point you're making. There were people who've committed some pretty serious crimes who suddenly found that the doors are unlocked, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's the benefit of the doubt. There's sort of, you know, I mean, I'm sure the lady didn't have a massive criminal record, so 3 strikes before she goes to prison, all that sort of stuff. But just to jump on people like that. And the other thing is, we have figures for certain racial demographics to reduce police interaction. Yeah. And then I think all of these people were white. And you're thinking, well, isn't that... I mean, obviously you can't be racist because you're white, you know, but isn't that a sort of like, you know, a targeting a certain racial demographic? I find it...
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, they were... Bear in mind, if you put those social posts out there, it's not difficult to track you back and to find out. So I don't know if they were all white. I've no idea, but and in a lot of instances, they've got some pretty compelling video footage.
It really comes down to the question of what social media is for. Yeah. And I think that the biggest purpose it serves is really as a marketing tool for people and for companies. And I think that what a lot of these men were doing last summer was marketing themselves. They were trying to raise their profile with potential customers.
Voters.
And one of the things that is happening, because the internet is so lax in terms of how social media is regulated and everything else, is people can just lie with impunity. The people who say, I want freedom of speech, they're often saying, what I want is the freedom to lie. And so I think, personally, it needs to be a principle that, firstly, the police have a method of knowing which real person is behind a social media account. Yeah. And then they need to have the ability to deactivate that social media account if it spreads lies, because it's a criminal offence.
That's interesting.
I think those people should have effectively like a 3 strikes rule. You know, you've done it once, we fined you. You've done it twice, we fined you more. Now you're banned.
My wife being arrested, and she got arrested for filming me getting arrested for holding the St George flag at one of these peaceful demos. It wasn't a riot, Nick. It was a peaceful demo up at Whitehall.
Just remind everybody what you were demonstrating about.
Well, we wanted answers, information from the government that was hiding stuff. All we wanted was like to be told the truth. You know, what's going on with our country? Our kids are getting killed. You know, and nobody's doing anything about it. So we wanted answers. That's all it was.
What's your view? Lastly, we now have a panel of MPs who say there was no 2-tier policing that went on after the killings.
Nick, there's always 2-tier policing. There always will be 2-tier policing, and there will always be cover-up for 2-tier policing. I've seen several posts where police are nicking people for asking people. Like, there was one old boy who said, they're saying he should ask somebody, do you speak English? That is now a hate crime, apparently.
I don't know that that's a hate crime, but Mark, and just remind everybody, of course, your case got thrown out, and they didn't proceed with your wife, did they, as I recall? Is that right?
No, she got a no further action about a month
She got an NFA. Right, OK.
Social media is in its, let's just say, its infancy. It's a new phenomenon. We've not had time to develop as a society to understand how social media impacts us.
Yeah.
If we then take that onto your point about asking about the police, should they have released information and stuff? Now, it takes a long time to change legislation. It takes a long time to change how we do things on an official level. Far, far slower than the pace that social media can change our society.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
We're always on the back foot when it comes to something like this.
This sends out a message that had the killer in Southport been any of the things that people like Andrew Tate said he was, and people like Nigel Farage pretended to believe were viable contributions to public discourse, then the riots would have had a different moral dimension. It would almost have sounded as if... It sounds to me today, Barry, as if they are saying, oh no, if he had been any of those things, then we wouldn't have been able to stop the riots, and then in brackets, in silence, implicitly, because that would have been fair enough.
And that's where I struggle, because I think the hypocrisy is so glaringly obvious. The riots, this whole discussion, It's about trying to explain the actions of anti-Islamic racists. That was clear and simple to me. And I said this to your researcher, if there was a story about a member of the clergy, a Christian organisation who's done a heinous crime, would we see riots outside of churches and churches being set alight? No, of course not. The only reason that this was done, that the riots happened, was because it gave racists and anti-Islamics a feeling of ability to carry out these actions.